In this video, we are going to look at some of the rarest Ford muscle cars ever built. There's no denying that Ford remains one of the powerhouses in the muscle car market. Before the evolution of the industry and the advances we are seeing in performance engine technologies, muscle cars were rugged beasts. Back in the day, every automaker came up with different ideas to carve a space for themselves in the booming muscle car market. And while 1970 to 1980 is generally considered the dark era of American muscle cars, Ford still released some incredible vehicles during that time. Without further ado, here's our top 7 rarest Ford muscle cars. Kicking off, we have the 1969 Ford Torino Talladega. The Ford Torino Talladega was one of the fastest cars on the racing grid in 1969. Designed to beat the competition on the NASCAR circuits, 750 units of this masterpiece exist. Unlike most muscle cars built in '69 for racing, the Talladega changed engines a few times during its time on the track. The car launched with Ford's then remarkable FA427 side oiling racing engine. However, the mass production of the more powerful 429 Boss engine saw the 427 racing engine replaced. To make the mass-produced Torino Talladega street legal, the company had to replace the 429 Boss engine with the 428 Cobra jet, which was still powerful in its own right. Although the Torino was designed to challenge for the top spot in the NASCAR championship, reports indicate that the car won more races than the Ford racing team expected to win. Much of this superior performance was thanks to the ingenious design of rocker panels by Ford engineers, which reportedly increased the performance of the car's engine by 75 horsepower. Of the 750 units produced in 1969, only 90 are still accounted for. In the 6th spot, we have the 1963 Thunderbird Mcode Sports Roadster, 3rd Gen. Largely considered one of the most beautiful Thunderbirds ever built, the 1963 Mcode Sports Roadster is the 3rd generation of Ford's luxury cars. Alongside the infamous swing-away steering wheel, the car boasts some impressive features that make it more than a stylish car. Under the hood is a powerful 390 cubic inch tri-power V8 engine nicknamed Mcode that handled well and delivered up to 340 horsepower. The car had 3 Holley 2-barrel carburetors and a specially designed dual exhaust. The car also featured a convertible top and a retractable tonneau that made the Mcode a true open-air car. Other noteworthy features include chrome wire wheels, a custom AM/FM radio, a unique center console, and a remarkable interior layout. Today, the Thunderbird Mcodes are rare to find, even though 37 units left the assembly line in 1963. Of the 37 units, only 22 are accounted for. Moving on, the 1966 Ford Fairlane 500R code. In 1955, the Fairlane nameplate was never considered an option in the muscle car market. By 1965, though, Ford had revised its design of Fairlane cars to something more akin to a performance car. The 1964 Thunderbolt, for instance, was widely accepted as a high-performance drag car. So in 1966, when the Fairlane 500R code dropped, it was race-ready and outfitted to compete in the muscle car segment. Strangely, only 57 units left the production line. The 57 Fairlane featured dual Holley carburetors, a lift-off hood for improved aerodynamic performance, and front disc brakes, among others. The car also received the 7.0-liter Cobra V8 engine. At the time, the V8 was Ford's most powerful engine. With the capacity to produce 480 pounds of torque and a power rating of 425 horsepower, the 500R code was a beast. Holding down the 4th spot is the 1965 Shelby Mustang GT350R. Now this car has a big backstory. The gist is that Ford's association with iconic race car driver and designer Carroll Shelby was instrumental to the company's resurgence in the performance car market in the 1990s. At the time, Mustangs were popular but were not considered true muscle cars because they always felt underpowered compared to the Chevy Corvettes, Pontiacs, and Dodge convertibles that were setting the standard. However, the iconic 1965 Mustang GT350R still gets credited with completely reinventing the future of performance Ford cars. The GT350R featured the same 289 cubic inch V8 engine as the base GT car, but many performance modifications were made to increase the power rating of the engine to 350 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. The car also came. with an aluminum case Borg-Warner T10M 4-speed transmission system. Only 34 units of this car were made, and it quickly earned the nickname the Flying Mustang for the way it caught the air during racing. The GT350R was recently auctioned for $3.85 million, making it the most expensive Mustang ever sold at an auction. Moving on, we have the 1970 Ford Torino King Cobra. In 1969, Ford was losing grounds on the NASCAR racing tracks to Chrysler, among other top names. After a series of tests, the company resolved to try out new aerodynamic designs to help reclaim its throne in the 1970 racing season. At this time, the standard front-end design of the top-performing cars in the races was sleek nose. To get ahead of the competition, the company assigned designer Larry Shinoda and his team a task to craft a new sloped front end using the 1970 Torino as the base. This resolve led to the production of 3 prototype units. The prototypes featured different engines: a Boss 429, a 429 Super Cobra Jet, and a 429 Cobra Jet engine, respectively. All 3 had the same 4-speed manual transmission setup. However, due to production costs and a sudden change in Ford's corporate chain of command, the prototypes never made it onto the racing track. It also turned out that the front end of the King Cobra was generating so much downforce that making high-speed turns was deadly. Not surprisingly, plans to produce 500 more King Cobras were shelved. In 1971, Bud Moore bought 2 of the prototypes for just $1,200. In 2017, one of the King Cobras owned by Bud Moore was auctioned and sold for $525,000 at the Mcode Kissimmee auction. Coming in at number 2, we have the 1967 Ford Shelby Cobra Super Snake. As a nameplate, Shelby Cobra is one of the most iconic American brands from the 1990s. Despite its short tenure at the top, every Shelby Cobra delivered with a bang. In a line where every car is amazing, the 1967 Shelby Cobra Super Snake is in a class of its own. Outfitted with bumpers, mufflers, and other performance modifications to comply with street regulations, the car still retained all its racing features. So not only did the car come with a powerful 7.0-liter V8 engine, but the company also added a pair of Paxton superchargers, bringing the power rating to a massive 800 horsepower. The car could reach a top speed of 200 miles per hour and blitz from 0 to 60 miles per hour within 3 seconds, which is insane. Only 2 of these monstrosities were ever built, and only one is accounted for. Rumor has it that the second car is now at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean after the owner lost control and drove off a cliff. How true that is remains a mystery. What we do know is that the car was auctioned in 2007 for $5 million, which was a record for classic American muscle cars at the time. And for the top spot, we have the 1967 Shelby Mustang GT500 Super Snake. The legendary GT500 was introduced in 1967, following the successful launch of the Mustang nameplate in 1965. The car was created alongside the Shelby GT350 as beefed-up versions of Ford Mustangs with the same names. Initially, the GT500 Super Snake was designed as a prototype for engineering and tire development studies. Unlike the original GT500, the Super Snake featured a modified, lightweight 427 cubic inch V8 engine similar to the engine used by the Ford GT40 Mk2 race car. Not surprisingly, the racing engine pumped out over 500 horsepower with 420 pound-feet of torque. The car also came equipped with 7.75 by 15-inch Goodyear Thunderbolt tires as part of Carroll Shelby's partnership with the tire manufacturing company. The GT500 featured an upgraded transmission system and could reach a top speed of 170 miles per hour. Only 1 unit of this car was made, although Ford had plans to produce 50 units. It turned out that making something really good in the muscle car industry can be expensive. According to Ford, the cost of producing one Super Snake was double that of an original GT500. That said, Ford later built 10 replicas as newer models in the series. Sadly, they never really matched the standard of the 1967 model set. In 2019, the 1967 Shelby Mustang sold at an auction for a whopping $2.2 million. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video. It goes a long way. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss our next upload.